Who is Mike Jones?
Mike Jones! According to the UK government, a terrorist. For me, I feel like I'm living the textbooks that I studied in school.
Mike Jones is flying by the seat of his pants.
Like, I tell you I'm bullshitting, but I'm not. But I literally, I've been there, I've seen it, I believe it. That's why I can't even talk to my parents about politics. I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to engage in I didn't vote in the UK because I did not want to even entertain your circus. Bread and beer circus. BBC.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome to a special edition of Moscow Photographer. Today, I'm joined by a figure who sparked controversy and conversation across the internet. Mike Jones, better known online as iEarlGrey, became a household name in the digital realm for his unique perspective on geopolitical issues, particularly those involving Russia. His journey took a dramatic turn when YouTube, citing violations related to the spread of content favorable to Russian narratives, effectively canceled his channel. With the BRICS 2024 summit in Kazan as a background, I sit down with Mike Jones to unravel the layers behind his work, his motivations, and the repercussions of sharing information online. Join us as we explore the thin line between information and propaganda in an exclusive interview with Mike Jones.
We're recording, by the way. I think we are we? You see the red light on?
Recording.
All right. Who is Mike Jones?
Mike Jones! Well, if you Google him, I think he's a big black rapper in a Florida penitentiary. I think so.
Must be.
Must be. Yeah, he's not me. Mike Jones. Well, according to the UK government, a terrorist. After I delivered Christmas presents to children in Donbass.
Bona fide.
Yeah. Apparently that violated the territorial integrity of Ukraine, and I will face 8 years in prison for my terroristic activities on that. So yeah, that's Mike Jones. Mike Jones in Russia.
Mike Jones is flying by the seat of his pants,
Making it up as he goes along, and trying to make sense of, honestly, a roller coaster of a world. I don't think certainly my lifetime, I've witnessed such, not just monumental, but a precarious ride where we've had these bumps. So not only have we had the special military operation in Ukraine kick off, then we've had Israel. We've had almost all the prophecies and foreboding that pretty much anyone ever predicted. Zhirinovsky in Russia is a big one. And he was really an astute political mind, and I would advise anyone that's watching to look into Zhirinovsky, because even President Putin himself said that this was a guy he was not a prophet, he was just well educated. He knew his field of focus, and he was well researched, and that's how he successfully predicted the turn of events that's coming to pass. For me, I feel like I'm living the textbooks that I studied in school. I'm seeing Nazis. I'm witnessing the war crimes. Things that I thought were consigned to history, that we all agreed in the West would never happen again. And yet, on my watch, I'm seeing my own government not just condone, but sponsor and facilitate and even glorify these war crimes. And then I speak to the actual people. I'm in that privileged position where I can be from the West, having read Biggles, having watched The Great Escape every Christmas, seeing Steve McQueen jump over the fence, and we were like, down with the Nazis. Then I literally see the footage from Kursk. Those guys are wearing SS helmets with SS written on them. And then we have Victoria Newland, okay, yeah, she stepped down from her post, but her ilk, Blinken, as well. And we see the BBC headlines. I think now with Israel, we had COVID first. That was a good litmus test. Then we had Ukraine. That was another litmus test. And now with Israel, this is where the division was really taking place, where people are seeing propaganda, certainly the Western version, of where you see like 28 dead. No, it's 28 people were killed, murdered, not 28 dead. The choice of language is very Orwellian, and we're really seeing that in the language, in the propaganda, in the media. Mm-hmm. If Russia were blamed for anything, it'd be children murdered, slaughtered on the street. But when Israel does it, it's just 28 dead. Not big news. So I think that people are waking up both. I wouldn't say both in Russia. I think Russian people are understanding quite what they have and the illusion that they were sold for many years, delusion, really, in all truth and honesty. And then the West, the curtain is really falling back. We're seeing the Wizard of Oz behind there, and he's just smashing away at those buttons, AI buttons, for the most part, now with Grok and things like this. And more and more people are being disillusioned, and they want to move to Russia. It's conviction, dude. You know what I'm saying? Conviction.
Of course, you believe what you're saying.
Like, I tell you I'm bullshitting, but I'm not.
No. Of course you're
in the sense of, sure, it's all the key buzzwords that everyone wants to hear. But I literally, I've been there, I've seen it, I believe it. That's why I can't even talk to my parents about politics.
How do your parents feel about you?
Well, my parents will tell me they're proud of me, but we can't talk politics. So they give me the BBC stuff that, Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. First of all, not full-scale at all. It's a special military operation. I've been there. I've literally seen the machinery that's going in. I know Russia's military might, and you know that it's only a percentage. You know that, but you're not told that. You're told it's full-scale military invasion, like Russia is.
Talking points.
Yeah. But the issue is, I've been there, and you can't argue with that. So that shuts down the conversation straight away. Okay. Let's not talk about politics. I actually wasn't talking about politics. I was talking about my last week when I was talking to people in Mariupol that were shot and murdered by Nazis who literally had SS tattoos on their skin, who literally shot at civilians, babushkas, in their sights. They even heard it on the radio. Yeah, shoot civilians. And that's coming out more and more in the news today.
So this for you is not politics. This is real life.
Exactly. And this is what my grandfather told me we fought and died for before. But back then I thought it was his war. It's my war now. And I'm on the same side as my grandfather. But why is my country not behind me? Why is my country sanctioning me, seizing my funds?
Because you and I were told when we were in school, because we probably had the same textbooks, but said,
absolutely,
never again.
Absolutely.
And yet, here we are, once again.
I was taught it was the war to end all wars. So why has the United States and England, behind them, funded, how many, 87 wars since?
It's been nonstop.
Well, technically, the First World War was the war to end all wars, and then the second one happened. But was it 27 million people of the Soviet Union? That's civilians. That's not the military. Laid down their lives. And you and I weren't taught that in history books. Like I said, Stalingrad was kind of a side note to D-Day.
You know, I remember in my history textbooks, the section that talked about the USSR and the contributions of the Red Army to the defeat of Nazi Germany were maybe 2 paragraphs of 1 page.
If that.
Very, very brief. It made it sound as if America and its American allies did everything. It wasn't until I've actually started to learn Russian history. And of course, now being in Russia myself, learning the truth.
So for me, I was brought up with cannon to the left of them, cannon to the right of them, the charge of the Light Brigade. Well, where was that? That was the siege of Sevastopol. That was a British infantry regiment charging the Russian cannon, which was glorified. Why were we there? It was the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish, and then you start to piece together, okay, wow, this beef between certainly England and Russia, it's like, why? They're related by blood. And they literally sold them out. They took their gold and they funded the White Army that was fighting and literally gave the Bolsheviks the first tanks in the world. Like we're seeing in Ukraine now, this technology, this military hardware is ending up in Moscow. You and I are filming it, documenting it. It's the same thing that's just repeated again. I don't understand. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. The Swedish have been involved as well in raids on Kronstadt in St. Petersburg. We've seen the Baltic states as well. I call them Chihuahua states because they like to bark a lot, but they don't really have much bite. And that's where, certainly in the Baltic states, we've seen this very Nazi element that has come from Ukraine as well. We've seen people harassed in Estonia that are trying to cross into Russia. Russia, I think that the more the West vilifies Russia for the fact it doesn't celebrate LGBTQ, it doesn't follow that thing, it's keeping Russia in the headlines, and it's actually it's an advert for Russia. So I'm getting more and more messages every day of people who are like, I want that. I want a country that's full of untainted nature, of economic potential, certainly in Moscow and St. Petersburg, where I'm seeing, Maybachs rolling around. I can hire a Maybach as a taxi for 2,000 rubles to get home, which I couldn't even dream of in the UK. That's not to say I do it, but it's just, as business class, it's there. And not all Russians, of course, enjoy that privilege like I do. And I'm very thankful for that. And I'm very thankful to Russia for that economic potential. But that's the thing, where a man, if he works hard, he's qualified, he can actually make it. He can have a car, he can have a house, he can have a holiday, he can provide for a family. This was what I was raised on. This is what I aspired to.
Even a taxi driver with Yandex Go, who earns 200,000 rubles per month, can provide for a family and his flat and earn a very good salary.
In Moscow.
In Moscow.
In the capital.
Absolutely.
See, this is a dream that I aspired to. I was on that hamster wheel. And this is what I tell Russian media. And I got tired. I stopped running. I was like, well, what happens if I step off the hamster wheel? I just do Henry David Thoreau, Life in the Woods. I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to engage in your... I didn't vote in the UK because I did not want to even entertain your circus. Bread and Beer Circus, BBC. Bread and Beer Circus. It's the same that's been happening since ancient Rome. Distract the mob. I could see it. I didn't want any part of it. And then when I came to Russia, I saw people that are just real. They say what they mean, and they mean what they say, and they get on and they do it. And you'll find them in Siberia, and they're still discovering them. 50 to 80 years later, there's people who have just carried on. They didn't even know the Second World War ended. They're just... It's even a Russian tradition to go out and take potatoes from the field. They still understand the basics of what it means to live, and also family as well. The strength and structure. Whereas in the West, I know, because I saw it myself, where you are divided into individual islands. You're just an individual. You're beautiful because you're you. No, but I'm connected to everyone. I'm only 6 people removed from every person on the planet. But there's the difference. Russia understands that, and as we're seeing in Kazan now, Russia is utilizing that. We are absolutely connected. And by leveraging these connections and these people, like-minded sovereign states that share our values, they're defeating the West comprehensively.
So the defeat of the West is not only on the battlefield, it's also in the information war.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen the West decry the fact that, let's look at Moldova. Okay, well, the EU got their way, but that was by denying how many, I think there's 50,000 Moldovan citizens in Russia. They issued 10,000 ballots. They accuse Russia, everything is, Joseph Goebbels said, accuse the enemy of that which you're guilty of. And we see it time and again. Russia's interfering in the US elections. Really? I think it's pretty clear that Trump's going to win. Why? Because Biden is incompetent and Kamala Harris is just not an option. We've seen it in the UK. How many of these so-called leaders that we been through? They're just all incompetent. Keir Starmer, has shown himself to just be a shill of the Israeli lobby. And we've seen how Israel owns the US as well. So people are waking up, they're connecting the dots. And then the countries like China, like Russia, like, dare I say, even North Korea. Even North Korea is getting good promotion in the sense that it's aligned with the people who are on the right side of history. I don't know that much about North Korea. I've never been. I don't know Kim Jong-un. I don't know what the conditions are like. All I know is what the BBC told me. And invariably, that's bad. But is it?
We don't know.
I don't know. And if I go, not only I'm already on the Ukrainian kill list Militavorets for my activities in Ukraine, but if I go, I know I will be sanctioned, arrested, thrown in prison like Julian Assange for just even looking. How is that freedom of speech? How is that freedom of the press? I personally know friends in Moscow who have been arrested in Dubai, threatened with extradition to the US for having visited North Korea once. And there we have the weakness, and that is the inherent paranoia and weakness, and it's Nero fiddling whilst Rome burns. And we are, as I've referenced before, we're seeing history repeat itself both in, like I said, about the British royal family and their dealings with Russia, but we're seeing it also with the Senate of Rome devaluing their own currency. We're literally watching that in real time, and we're talking about 1,000 years at least apart. We're seeing about the degradation of values, separation of people, and just that's where Russia is extolling these virtues that have kept countries, nations united for thousands of years, which is pretty much accepted across the world. Then we have this other influence that's trying to say, oh, well, no, you want to try it this way. Well, we know from history that doesn't work. So why would we follow you? And then add into that the chaos that I foresee that's going to happen to not just the UK, but the US.
So Mike, Putin's decree on a shared values visa as a doorway, as a pathway to immigrating to Russia from the West. What are your thoughts on that?
As a mechanism, I think it's huge. Well, Putin already declared amnesty to the fifth column, to the oligarchs, those that fled to the West, realized they got absolutely shut down, sanctioned, had their assets stripped because they were in purgatory. They're Russian, never going to be accepted in the West. They had dealings in the past, they were always going to be. So now we have this situation where we have good Christian, God-fearing people in the West. I know of at least one case, certainly in Canada, where a Russian family moved from Russia to Canada, and they are literally fearing for their children because due to the laws there, those children can cut their genitals off without their parents' consent or knowledge. And that, as a father as well, scares me. So we're with decrees like this shared values from Putin, you're stripping away the Western propaganda of better dead than red. We've had that for how many years? 50? At least 50 years. Certainly in the West, and I know from the BBC, and I'm absolutely sure in the US it's the same. So Putin's decree is stripping that away, where people are realizing that, wait, hold on, I'm in a community of white Caucasian people that share the same values as me. It's frightening that they speak a very foreign language. It's a different alphabet. I understand that. I jumped in the deep end in 2018. That didn't stop me from engaging in this country, in this culture, and these people. And I would recommend the same to other people as well. Even if you don't know anything about the Cyrillic alphabet or the culture, just come. Just come here. And you'll see that people, certainly as a British person, I'm quite reserved, I'm quite conservative. If you see me in the lift, I'm not going to go, hey, how are you? How's your day? I'd rather be quiet. And Russians are quite similar. For Americans, it's a bit of a culture shock in that regard. Aside from that, I think you'll find a country of just incredible beauty, just even geologically and naturally, but the people itself as well. You'll find that if you give them time and attention, they'll open up, and you'll see that these people bled for that cause many years ago, and they're bleeding now. And even people in the West are bleeding, but they don't even know it. They're told, oh, it's fine. Or the credit, oh, the national debt, that's fine. Don't pay attention to the trillions. That's going to bankrupt you and cause the next Great Depression. Whereas Nabulina of the central government, I trust her. I honestly trust these officials as being competent. When I look at the West, I see an admiral who's a man dressed in a skirt, pretending to be a woman, telling me how much he values black lives. A white man. So for me, life in Russia makes sense. I'd rather be with people who are like-minded, like President Putin has said at Kazan. BRICS is consisting of sovereign nations that are like-minded. And I think that trickles down to the very personal level, where we're seeing we are like-minded. We share the same values, we study the same history books, we know the same, and it doesn't matter how much AI or Orwellian redaction that you do to the archives, we remember.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is Thursday, the 21st of November, and what's most intriguing about the news today is not what's being said, but what's not being said.
Although banned on YouTube, Mike Jones can be found online at his Substack, foreignagentintel.com. You can also find him on Telegram, and you'll find the links in the show notes below. A big thank you to Mike Jones for sharing his time with all of us, and thanks to you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Moscow Photographer channel, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.